Hello.
Hello and welcome back to the SWAN Pricing Show. My name is Filip Vucic. I'm a pricing mentor.
And I'm Filip Zolota. I am business mentor.
Today we're going to talk about flexibility. Let's call it that, right? Or more to the point, the excess of flexibility and why it's bad for you, basically. Because I think it's more modern to call it boundaries, especially when it comes to small firms and solopreneurs. But it's the same thing, right? If somebody says, can you be available tomorrow, at 6 a.m., maybe. Can you be available tomorrow at 3 a.m.? No. Right? Because in the physical world, in the duck world, there are some, because of the costs at least, there are some natural barriers to stuff. No, you can't come to the bank at 3 a.m. because there's nobody there, because, we can't pay people to be there 24/7. And nobody says, that's so rude. That's not a thing, right? And I've heard that. I've heard, you have a client from across the world and it would be really convenient for them tomorrow at 2 p.m., which just happens to be your 3 a.m. And it's so rude for you not to be flexible toward your customers. No, right? And anybody doing something like that would be killing themselves to be, perfectly flexible for their clients, but probably would do themselves this favor, right? But okay, so in the duck world, there are some natural barriers. There's some natural boundaries that everybody understands they cannot cross because there's costs, right? No, we cannot sell you a tin of sardines below this because that would be under cost. Oh, right. Yes, I understand, right? But here, when you're a solopreneur, as you emphasized, there are no additional costs. You're working from home now. You would be paying that electricity anyway. So why not make $20 on this? Why not make $500 a week for 30 hours? Because it's better than nothing and it costs you nothing, right? So there's almost no boundary there. So you have to set it yourself. You can't count on the natural order of things to set sensible boundaries. You have to be the one setting sensible boundaries, and then people call you a jerk. So I think the reason why I say that boundaries create the lack of boundaries is a bad thing. So wouldn't it be great if you could be at service for any client? No, because you would burn out. And even with an agency, that's what I wanted to say. Well, you're going to pay those people anyway, so they're just idle. So why not make, again, $500 for 30 hours of your people's work? They don't have much to do anyway, so it's better than nothing, right? No.
Absolutely no.
Hard no. And one of the reasons why this is true is because that signals weakness. Yeah. And people will take advantage of this, right? Absolutely. Well, not all of them, but you don't need all of them. You just need some of them to see, oh, this guy's always available. Because it's suspicious. If you're good, and as an expert, you should be good at something. If you're good at something, then people should be buying from you. If people aren't buying from you, then there's something wrong. Maybe there isn't, but it sounds like it is. So if people aren't using your advice, maybe I should take a hint and not take it as well, right? And this is why it's completely detrimental to plaster your web page with call us anytime, we'll answer anything, we'll be there we'll answer the call in 40 minutes or less, or whenever you call, or anything like this. Or I had a client who, when he was asked when he can come to the client's office and do the service, he said, oh, I don't have a lot to do, it can be anytime.
Yeah.
And that's not ideal. What's your experience with flexibility?
You help me remind a bunch of stuff, and I even some of them wrote down. Just one anecdote I want to share with the audience. When I was starting my business, I was the always available guy, and through the time, I became completely unavailable, simply the not deserved kind of guy. And the point is, it's for some of the people, it's even initially counterproductive, but the fact is, people respect. It's how it happens. Very important, and you mentioned the boundaries, an issue about the boundaries. Problem often happens when people are already having cooperation, they're happy, they have a great relationship and everything, and it goes into the friendship zone. More often than not, people start to remove those boundaries, and scope creep, additional requests and expectation arise. And you, as the expert and professional who is appreciating that relationship, have an amazing relationship and friendship with that respectable person, you're giving more and extra. But what if some unexpected situation occur or happen, which is kind of a red flag? Oh, but I've done this and this for you, and you blah blah. You are killing that relationship, the friendship and business collaboration. So it's very important that you have a clear boundary between private relationship and being a friend with somebody, which is great and awesome. It is much more easier to work with somebody who you appreciate, not just business-wise, but also have a private relationship. But business is business, private relationship and friendship is something else. The boundary and border needs to be in place there. And also very important, as I mentioned initially, about the respect perspective. If you're being overly flexible and always available, you are practically treating yourself as a commodity, and it's not something bad from the recipient side, meaning your clients and customers, they want to treat you on a bad way. They'll just be using what you gave them as a tool.
Yes.
If you said, I'm always available, call me anytime, they'll do that.
And then they do.
Why? Because you gave them that information, and they don't see anything bad happening if they call you maybe in 10 p.m., 11 p.m. while you're watching some movie on Netflix or whatever. So the boundaries are something which need to be placed in business, especially in those realms, business-wise, which are even more dynamic, where you have a strong impact on somebody's business. Because if you don't have the boundaries, client will be calling you every 5 minutes because they're leaning on you completely. I need help, I need this, I need... And it's a road to nowhere, by all means to nowhere, for them, for you, and for your relationship.
Yes. So I think it's impolite, if you want, to burn yourself out and then not be there for people who actually need you when you're prepared to give them the best of your value, right? I think that's impolite.
Yeah.
Right. And I've been asked. So I wrote about this on LinkedIn, and people asked, so if I don't do rush appointments or after hours, how can I still be competitive with other solos who do that? And you can't. Well, you can, but not on that. But you don't want that, right? Because businesses based on expertise are like puzzle pieces. it doesn't really matter if I found this one quicker. It's not the one that I need, right? So in you don't want to be competitive like that. That's not look, I've seen some people build a business on this, not exactly being always available, but I know a person that built a business, a short-term one, but still, on being really quick, as in being able to do very short-term notices. And they charged a lot for it, but they charged to people who had absolutely no choice about it. It was architecture, it was 3D. If you messed up and you needed a 3D render, not the best one on the market, but you needed a 3D render, and you needed it not in 3 to 6 weeks, but in 3 to 6 days, you had two options: pay them or good luck, you know. And they did it with the use of with the heavy use of automation, which nobody else could really follow. And the business went under for a while and then re-emerged, and now is a global business. It still employs very few people, but they pull off some amazing things. But so this was a very niche kind of a thing. And again, you can't call them during a lunch hour, or God forbid, you know, on a Sunday, unless you have a special number. But they know really well why they gave you that. But the idea is in general. So if that is not your forte, if you don't have an unfair advantage, let's say, because you know how to code and the rest of your field really doesn't, then you don't want to be competitive on that. It's fine, right? Because you can extend this. It's a global world today. You cannot be always available. You simply you have to sleep sometimes, right? Yep. So well, if you sleep, then you lose competitiveness toward your colleagues in California. Yeah, who cares?
Yeah. And one thing also which I wanted to mention, you mentioned the agency role and agency work. Simply due to my experience, that's something which I want to emphasize to the audience. People are having the perception that the marketing agencies are always available. It is always a struggle, fighting and rushing somewhere. Everything is urgent. No, it depends on you. So if you accept the urgency mode as your default pattern and you work day that is a part of your culture, you have the same type of clients. For example, in my agency, urgency is forbidden word. I even had the cases in my 15 years of experience as the agency owner. I heard only, I think, two or three times the urgency from my clients, but that is something which for them was kind of impactful, at least from their perspective. And my question was quite simple, as you're okay. Do we need to drive you to the emergency? Everything okay with health? No, we have, this is not urgent. This is something which can be done now. It's urgent for you because there was some major lack or misunderstanding or whatever within your processes and procedures, and you want to transfer it now to us. We can resolve that, but the price would be ad hoc 5 times the regular. Oh, it's not so urgent anymore. Okay. That is the point. How you set up the frame, that is something which will you be eating. And that's the point. So everything can be set up properly. And if you communicate your values, the dynamics and everything, and align with your clients and customers, it's kind of a no-brainer, both for them and for you. People respect you. You respect them, delivering the best possible solution for them. If something is urgent, there is also a big chance of error. And that is something which you cannot allow to happen for yourself, for your company, and in the end deliver something which is not an adequate and top quality fit for the client. Sometimes rejecting the urgency you are helping and supporting your client make sometimes even a major mistake, and that is okay. They even don't know at that specific moment, an arrogant asshole, he rejected me. But afterwards, thank you. You helped me. You supported me that way, because that was not primary issue or challenge we need to face with and resolve. There were much more important things to do. And
Yeah, I think Jonathan Stark says you're appointed the guardian of the scope.
yeah,
So the
exactly.
client will try to add to the scope, and it's your job to say, if that does not contribute or shortcut in a good way something within our scope, then this is another thing, and we can talk about another thing when we're done with this one. Or it could be phase two. That's a euphemism, right?
Yeah.
Euphemism is phase two. So what would you say are the signs that somebody doesn't takes you for granted, that you're too available to somebody?
Yeah, absolutely. A regular and constant scope creep by default. Very often new requests, updates on existing work because they didn't took adequate amount of time to focus on something so they can deliver relevant information to you. So they are just throwing at you in numerous iterations, and it's urgent for them. Stop. Just stop. And that's it. Those are kind of important signals, and absolutely calling people outside working hours. Other thing is, if you have service level agreement with your client where it is defined who, where, and when will be available for them to support them, to guide them, whatever. But other way around, random calls in random time from all over the place, it's a strict no.
I agree. I would add, you know, people who cancel repeatedly. So, you know, canceling once is always fine. Canceling twice is edgy. Canceling more than two times is just completely unprofessional. Whatever happened, you should be able to make time. Even second time is like, okay, but it sometimes happens. More than two times, they just don't respect you at all. Leaving you to wait, arriving late, answering a phone call in the middle of a meeting, which is not to say, okay, sorry, I'm in a meeting, meet me, let's talk later, but you know. So there's all sorts of signs that somebody doesn't really either respect you or respect your time, which is sort of the same, I would say. Okay.
Yeah, and you have the situation we spoke about in our pre-show. It's connected with the urgency perspective. Can we do this today? I need you. I need you to do it for me today, or I need you tomorrow. No. Or, I love this one. And I have special treatment for those people. Somebody who is calling you more than once. You know what is my rule? The number of additional phone calls is the number of days I'll be calling them after. So if somebody is calling me after the initial call and I haven't responded because I'm on some meetings, etc., and he's calling me, or she, whatever, the second, the third, or fourth time, the number of attempts is the number of days. That's it. And that is my practice now, I think 12 years. And it works flawlessly. And that is something which I even mentioned. And I said to people, okay, you called me 3 times that day. Why? I needed this. Okay, I'm calling you now 3 days afterwards because that is my rule. So next time, if you actually want to get to me, call me once. I have the call log. I have it. We all have it on the phones, especially if what was so urgent? You could write me, send an
Yeah.
email,
Right,
whatever. But in
write something
majority of
or
cases, those calls are completely meaningless. The point is people don't respect their time, so they can hardly respect yours. But it's on you to
it's a
set
good
up
rule.
the boundaries, and that's it.
It's a good rule. And I would say that that's how you solve it, because I think it's time we stopped ranting and move towards some sort of solution. I think rush fees are great, especially when they're anticipated, as you said, and as we talked before. You never want to surprise a client.
Yeah.
You might want to refresh their memory about something that they agreed to before, and they're like, "Oh, I didn't know that applied." You know, okay, that's completely fine. We can play dumb, but apart from that, rush fees are good. Now, I usually think about people in not that great of negotiation of a negotiating position as well. So if you don't have a great negotiating position, but you still want to deliver a sting that will not sting you back, that will not have a client flying away and, you know, making you worry about paying the bills, you can apply it. So you say this is usually subject to a rush fee. This is today also subject to rush fee, but let me tell you what. I'll apply a rush fee, but I'll give you a discount to cover it this time. But on the bill, there will be the rush fee. You will just not feel it this time.
Mhm.
And I feel so it's not as good as actually charging them anything. And you really have to stand your ground, stick to your guns next time. Otherwise, so you know, that only works once.
Yeah, because that would be meaningless if you do not apply the rule.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And sometimes they're going to test you.
Mhm.
And basically the choice there is not between doing it and not doing it. It's between caving in and basically having to look for another client, because this one will now abuse everything that they can, not just this, but everything that they can, because now that they see that you're afraid of them.
Mhm.
And you need them more than they think they need you. So this is going to grow unworkable really fast. So the choice is between caving and absolutely having to find a new client as soon as possible, and not caving and maybe having to find a new client as soon as possible. So actually, the less risky one is to not cave.
Mhm.
Because I don't know if you had those kinds of experiences I have. Once, so you warn them and you cave, that's it. They're never going to take you seriously ever again.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. It's very important. It can happen to anybody once, but if it is not happening and starting to be a better, if you allow that, no matter whatever you tell them, or whatever you told them, after you break your rule,
Yeah.
there is no okay, so rules don't apply, so I can do whatever I want. So that's the problem. And also, some of the people will try, and it's their tactic, to try to catch you off guard. Then it's not important that you immediately give them the response. Let me think for a moment. I'll be answering you back, whatever. Taken by yourself when applicable, some time to make a proper decision and give them the feedback, because there are a bunch of people who are trying, as mentioned, to caught you off guard and simply extract what is required at the moment, and they want to receive immediately from you, and you need to be on their priority list. Whatever the expectations are, it's completely irrelevant. So
I feel like people will say, well, that's a power move, right? You're deliberately, and your tactic of, if you call me 3 times, I'm going to call you in 3 days. Well, that's a power move. Asking for service out of service hours is a power move. Asking for the unwarranted discount, asking for a favor is a power move. So if we're friends, we're friends. But like you said, those things don't really mix. Not in these kinds of terms. So asking for exceptions is a power move. So yes, what you just described is a power move, and it's psychology and whatever else you like to call it. But they did it first. They wanted to come in and try if they can do that to you. And if the answer is yes, like you said, that relationship is basically ruined. Unfortunately, right? By the way, if people shouldn't be always available, even if their calendars are basically empty, I think I don't know what your practice is, but when somebody says, so when can we meet, I will usually give them 3 times, 2 of them in the same day. So it can be, I don't know, 10 a.m. or 1 p.m. on a Tuesday, or noon at Friday, or something like this, right? And then if they can't make it at all to any of them, you can always be magnanimous. You can always say, wait, I'll check. So when would it work for you? Let me call you back in 5 minutes. You call them back, you say, okay, I made this happen. And now you already gave them something. Right? Yeah. Again, not ideal, but you didn't technically tell a lie. You just proposed sometimes. And they're going to respect you more, because I think we talked about the sick cleaning doctor, right? You don't want to go to a doctor that you just saw cleaning the somebody's puke off the floor, because I mean there's nothing wrong with doing the job of cleaning, but you don't want your doctor to do it, because now you're going to look at them differently. So in order to protect their own opinion of you, which is good for them because you do know your stuff, although you currently have to clean the puke as well, they're going to get the wrong impression, which is bad for them and for you, if they see that you don't have any work right now, and they have no idea of the context. And anyway, maybe you were out of the game because of somebody's illness, or people know too little about what we do to appropriately judge the situation. Oh yeah, but this is normal because it's, I don't know, it's February and all of the clients are skiing anyway. They would just see you as cleaning the sick, and I don't think that's genuine. I don't think letting them see that is being frank with them, because they don't see the context, right?
Yeah. I completely agree with you, especially what I'm quite often emphasizing to the experts, also in my mentorship program and everything. One big, quite important problem arises when they are expanding the effort simply to help and support their client with hands-on stuff. If you are in the consultant and mentor role, you are not going outside that box, because the moment you take over the hands-on stuff, you are not anymore the business mentor nor the consultant. You're somebody else, and you are also giving the extra namespace and the space for misunderstanding, for misalignment, for mistakes, etc., 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 etc. And as you said, with lack of knowledge about the context and everything, there is a big tendency things will be going sideways. And yeah.
Yes, absolutely. I think with setting your price as well,
Mhm.
you can be too flexible, as in the mix and matching, right? What the British call cherry picking. So can I have like just the start of this and the end of that, and I don't need the rest? Firstly, you do. And secondly, no, right? There should be some flexibility. There should be some choice. I'm always for giving the clients a choice, but you don't let them pick and choose, because they have no idea what they're doing usually, and they're going to skip stuff which is going to hurt them, and then they're not going to be happy with the result, because that's not what they expected. Because usually people listen to the expert and do those things. It happened to me a couple of times. I actually got some good recommendations on LinkedIn on this subject. So I came in and they said, oh, you know, this audience part, we don't need that. We already did it. And I look at it and I said, okay, fine, let's go on. And then in the middle of the second phase, it turns out that they didn't do it well the first time, so we actually have to completely go back, and they gladly paid for it. Don't get me wrong. They even wrote so in so he you know got us out of some really bad assumptions. But yeah, so too much flexibility there is also not really professional. And boundaries on what can people choose will affect the end result, and by protecting the end result, by protecting the options, you're basically protecting the end result, which one of the end results is your relationship with the client. And this is very important, right? So this is why integrity, as in not lying, yes, but integrity also to sticking to your own rules is important, because it's relationship building. And this is, I think, we can soon call it a day. But I think this is also one of the big swan duck differences with commoditized services. There's less of an expectation of a continued relationship with you and on your client. These are mostly transactional things. So if you're never going to see each other again, it doesn't really matter, right? The relationship stuff doesn't really matter. And they can abuse you more, and you can rip them off more, and you know, who cares? But here it matters. And the only way to set up a relationship in a healthy way, just like with any other relationship, is to set boundaries and stick to them, right? Set that clear. Is there something that you wanted to add?
No, that's pretty much it. I think that we made a good circle about the topic.
Great. In that case, where can people find you, Philip?
People can find me on LinkedIn and also my mentorship page, philipzalota.com.
I will mirror you on that, also on LinkedIn, also on YouTube now, and other video platforms, and fearless-pricing.com. People, thank you for being a part of another SWAN pricing show, and I'll see you next week.
See you.
Bye.
Bye.